In overnight news, Interstate 40 was shut down for a while earlier this morning because of a semi-fire. This is video just back from the scene at I-40 westbound near Rio Puerto. Police are still investigating exactly what happened here, but they say it could have been a mechanical problem with the back tire of the trailer. That is the part of the truck that actually caught fire. Now, no one was injured in the fire, and the interstate is now opened again. Happening now, it's a major concern every time this year, a potentially deadly threat. We're talking mosquitoes carrying the West Nile virus.
Yes, one person here in Bernalillo County is already confirmed to have that virus. A lot more mosquitoes do, both here and in Sandoval County. So how do you know if you get West Nile virus? News 13's David Romero is live in the Newsplex with the answer. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Matt. According to the Centers for Disease Control, the infection of West Nile virus can lead to West Nile fever or the more serious West Nile disease. Now, a 63-year-old Bernalillo County man has the more severe clinical form, which can produce neurological symptoms. This includes a high fever, stiffness in the neck, disorientation, muscle weakness, and can lead to paralysis. For the West Nile fever, infected people can also experience a number of symptoms, including fever, tiredness, swollen lymph glands, and body rash. Now, from the time you're infected, the symptoms may not show up anywhere from 2 days to 2 weeks. If you feel the onset of any of these symptoms, doctors recommend you call a physician immediately. Waiting could be very costly.
West Nile is a virus, so there's no antibiotics to take, but it's real important, especially if you have serious complications of West Nile, to be able to seek medical treatment and get supportive care as soon as possible.
Just last year, there were only 4 cases of West Nile virus in the state, all with the more severe symptoms. Matt, back to you.
All right, thank you for the information, David. Now, those 4 that David talks about from last year is actually down from 25 cases in 2010. That's also when West Nile killed someone here in New Mexico.
The state of New Mexico has implemented tougher mandatory jail sentences for repeat DWI offenders, but we have learned that some of the worst offenders are in the comfort of their own homes right now. State law says that a 4th DWI is a felony and mandates that the offender be locked up for 6 months. However, 33 repeat drunk drivers are 4-time offenders or worse, and all 33 are at home right now in what's called the Community Custody Program.
We have a right to our safety, and when we've got multiple offenders out and possibly driving, because they can't handhold these like they would if they're in jail, they're in one place, I think that's a disservice.
Now, the district attorney's office tells us that repeat offenders are given 2 options: go straight to jail for the 6 months required or go to drug court. Drug court has certain requirements that offenders must complete, and if they pass those required courses, they are allowed to serve the mandatory 6 months on house arrest.
A teenager who police say stole 10 guns from a home in Albuquerque this week is in jail right now without bond. Police say Gerald Archibique broke into a house in the Westgate neighborhood on Tuesday, took the guns and a lot of ammunition. Police caught up with Archibique at his home. They say he admitted to breaking into the home and showed investigators where he put everything. A corrections officer at the Juvenile Detention Center in Northwest Albuquerque is on paid leave right now after Bernalillo County Sheriff's deputies say she had a sexual encounter with a teenage inmate there. Deputies say Lara Starosky had the encounter with a 17-year-old boy in a closet at the detention center. Surveillance cameras caught some of what deputies say happened. The teenage boy told investigators he initiated everything, but because Starosky is in a position of power, she faces rape charges.
This morning, police are investigating threatening phone calls being made to Albuquerque firefighters. The fire department says a man with obvious knowledge of firefighting called several stations yesterday, making threats and being vulgar. Now, officials won't comment on what kinds of threats were made or who it might be making the phone calls, but they are investigating and keeping a close eye on the situation. We now know 2 high school football players accused of sexually hazing a younger teammate will go to trial. Authorities say Jeremiah Carroll and Jake Sanchez sexually assaulted a teammate in a locker room at Valencia High School back in 2010. The 2 accused players were 17 at the time, but prosecutors charged them as adults with rape, molestation, and kidnapping, something that could get them 20 years in prison. Their trial is scheduled for later this year. Now, yesterday, Carroll and Sanchez turned down a plea deal to plead guilty to aggravated assault and to be sentenced as juveniles. We'll keep you posted.
A family here in Albuquerque is now going after an apartment complex because a 3-year-old boy fell 2 stories out of a window. Carlos Rocha says he put his grandson, Andres Sena, down for a nap on Sunday afternoon at the Whispering Sands Apartments near Central and Juan Tabo. He heard the boy crying after that, realized the little Andres had fallen out the window and was at the bottom of the stairs bleeding. Andres is now recovering, but his family says he should not have gotten hurt in the first place. Mr. Rocha says when he first moved into the apartment, there were no screens and Whispering Sands didn't have the right ones for the windows, the right size to fit. Now Rocha is thinking about suing the complex.
I know for a fact that had that screen been installed properly and had it been the right screen for that window, this would have never happened to him.
We tried to call Whispering Sands Management Company yesterday, but they're out of town and they were already closed.
Good news this morning to tell you about. The Lowe's call center in Northeast Albuquerque may be expanding and bringing jobs with it. Lowe's wants to rent another building and hire 300 more workers. The Bernalillo County Commission will consider economic incentives at their next week's meeting, including a $75,000 grant and $10 million in bonds.